So, Coach, James said yesterday you told the team they'd be remembered by this bowl game. Why do you think this one game is so important?
I think bowl games mean different things to different teams, and I think this team, is a team that, if you remember, at the 9-game mark was 7-2 and playing pretty darn good, and had a little rough patch at the end. And I think this is a great opportunity for us. We've practiced really well. There's been a lot of juice, a lot of energy. And I think about all the seniors in this group that have played for Coach Paterno, then Coach O'Brien in this group. That's a special group. I think Josh wrote a nice article this morning that was on ESPN about Christian and that group of guys, what they've been through. So I think nothing would be greater than for our guys. Nobody that's on this team has had a losing season, and nobody that's on this team, when they've been eligible to go to a bowl, hasn't gone to a bowl. So to be in Jacksonville on January 2nd playing against the SEC team is a great opportunity for us, and I think it's against a really quality opponent, and I think everybody's really practiced well and looking forward to it.
Some of the stats say that Georgia's defense is actually better than you guys. Not all of them. How is your defense responding to that?
We haven't really talked about challenging ourselves against Georgia's defense. Again, it's our defense against Georgia's offense, and Grayson Lambert's a very experienced quarterback. He's thrown 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He was 24 out of 25 against South Carolina early in the year. Sony Michel's a great running back. They have really good receivers, Godwin, McKenzie, and Mitchell. They're guys that we've played against. We've played against this scheme for 3 years when we were at Vanderbilt. And we're familiar with them, and we're really looking forward to playing those guys. So it hasn't really been our defense versus their defense. It's our defense playing their best. And we, like I said, it's the best we've practiced in a long time. You see some guys with fresh legs, see some guys healthy again, and it's really exciting, and we're looking forward to Saturday.
Bob, can you describe the importance, what it's like getting Carl and Garrett back for the game? Is there a way to describe what they mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not a coincidence that we had 44 sacks heading into the Michigan State game and had 44 sacks coming out of the Michigan State game. You miss those guys, you start to juggle guys around. You say we'll play Anthony out there, and he's only practiced for a week out there. This team's overcome a lot. In off the field, certainly over the course of 4 or 5 years, and on the field this year, we've battled some injuries on defense. Whether it's Bell missing games, or Wortman missing games, or Lucas or Marcus Allen missing games, Grant Haley missing games, and I feel like we're as healthy as we've been in some time, and the guys, like I said, got their sea legs back. They're fresh, they're excited, they're ready to go, and I thought today that was another really, really solid practice.
What have you learned from the team as you went through the bowl practice? Obviously, you're preparing for one opponent, but what have you learned from your younger guys as you've worked up into this week, too?
I'm really looking forward to 2016. This game's really about the 2015 team, and I want to make sure we emphasize that. But there's been a message sent to some of the younger players about establishing themselves as leaders heading into 2016. And obviously, the first handful of practices are program development practices, and we scrimmaged our young, our redshirt and non-travel defensive players against the redshirt and non-travel offensive players. And guys like Givens, Sharif Miller, Buckholtz played exceptionally well. Brandon Smith, who's a walk-on, really could have been the MVP of every one of those things. Aaron Monroe and Garrett Taylor in the back end are guys who really showed out a little bit. So, we're playing a lot of young guys, but those young guys are guys who maybe aren't household names right now, who I think as the spring goes on, you guys are going to become more familiar with.
And one of the messages when your staff started was to promote the competition part of things. Is that message synced into these? Into these guys?
Yeah, there was a Monday practice. It was the second or third practice of bowl practice, and it was really just the coordinators and the players, and we challenged them. We made every period competitive. And I'm not sure what happened, but since then, we've practiced that it sparked something. I can't really put a finger on what it was, but, and I'm not always on the offensive side, so I can only speak for the defense, but the defense has practiced at an exceptionally high level. And one of the tips on the tip sheet this week's been play like we practice. If we play like we practice, it should be I'm looking forward to watching us perform on Saturday.
Bob, at this time of year, there are always a lot of rumors going around. Have you interviewed anywhere? Do you plan to interview anywhere?
I put out on Twitter last night I saw the play-by-play announcer for the Pirates left, and I put out on Twitter that was my dream job, but other than that, I don't know anything. So this isn't really the time to talk about that. No is the answer to that question. That's the simple answer to that question. I don't plan on going anywhere, but this is really a time for our team, and looking forward to being out there Saturday with these guys. I hope Penn State will have me for forever and ever and ever. I love being a part of Coach Franklin's program. I love what we're building here. And I've said this millions of times. I think we're a 30 for 30 story ready to rock and roll. It's just a matter of time before we get this thing rolling. And we play in the best division and the best conference in college football, and that's really exciting to me.
At some point, would you like to be a head coach again?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think anybody who's been a head coach, and I'm as competitive as anybody. Anybody who knows me knows that. And I was a head coach and did not have a successful conclusion to my head coaching experience. So if the right opportunity presented itself for me and my family and the people that are important to me when we sat down and talked about it, sure, that'd be something that I was interested in.
You talked about the future of the program, having Brent Pry out there right now. What does he bring to the table to the defensive side of the ball, especially from your perspective?
All the defensive coaches. We have the best staff in college football. I always say that. I mean, we've been together now. Brent, Sean, and I have been together now. This is our 5th year. We're going to be going on our 6th year. We really can almost finish one another's sentences. Meetings the first year that took hours and hours and hours now take minutes. And Brent and Sean both are tremendous sounding boards. My style of management is, I'm not a micromanager. I let those guys be the head coach of their position, and they do an outstanding job. They're great recruiters, and we have a great friendship. And since Terry's come on board, these 2 years, he's done a really good job. You look, Trevor Williams was an all Big Ten corner honorable mention a year ago, and this year I think Grant and Trevor both achieved that. Now, are there things that we need to improve upon? Sure. Do we need to check ourselves this offseason? Yeah, we need to continue to evolve. We need to continue to work with research and development. And believe me, our goal is to compete and win Big Ten championships. So we know where we are relative to the competition. Nobody needs to tell us that. And this hopefully is a game. Bowl games mean different things to different teams, but this is one that I think it can be a signature victory for this program and propel us to a great future.
You mentioned coaching, going up against an SEC team, having coached in both leagues. What's the differences you've seen on a week-to-week basis preparing for?
It depends on the team. I mean, there's a lot of teams in our division, in our league, that are as good as anybody we've played against. Michigan State right now is playing as good as anybody in college football. Ohio State's playing as good as anybody in college football. Michigan has had their moments where they're as good as anybody in college football. So I wouldn't say that one division or the depth of our division is as good as the depth of anybody's division anywhere. And there's been some great coaching changes this offseason at Maryland and at Rutgers that are going to upgrade those programs too. And we look forward to competing against them in 2016 and beyond.
What kind of relationship do you or did you have with Joe Moorhead? You guys Western PA, did you know him?
Oh yeah. I mean, Joe was a guy that I've known for a long time. I'm from a town called Oakmont, Pennsylvania. He's from Penn Hills. His brother is the same year as I am in high school. He played at Central Catholic. I played at a small Class A school, but we were both football, basketball guys. And I've known Joe for a long time. I knew him when he was at UConn. I knew him when he was at Akron. He's a great addition to the staff. He's a good friend, and I know Joe's just looking forward to joining us and contributing in any way he can. I'm really looking forward to competing against his offensive unit in the spring.
Austin Johnson isn't necessarily a guy that gets a ton of notoriety or awards or anything like that, but you look at the draft boards and maybe first, second round. What makes him so good, and what's his potential? Could he add 10, 15 more pounds and still be a pretty dominant force as well?
Probably could. I don't know that he needs to. He's a big guy. He's 310, 315 pounds. And to me, the reason he probably doesn't get as much notoriety is because it's one of those positions. He's a one technique. A one technique's a guy who's just a space eater in some schemes and things like that. But he's been so productive for someone. He leads, I think, the Big Ten in the country in tackles for interior defensive linemen. He's created tackles for loss. He's created disruption. He has one of the top fumble returns for touchdowns this year. We all want what's best for Austin. I got to tell you, I hope he's back next year and playing for us. But if he ends up going to the next level, he's got a very, very bright future. He's going to make a lot of money playing this game for a long time.
Time for 2 more.
17 more.
2 more. What can you tell us about some of those guys behind Austin? I mean, we saw a little bit of Antoine White this year.
That's the big question heading into the spring, and that's, again, probably not a question for leading up to Georgia, but you lose Zettel, you lose Austin, you lose Thoreau. So it's Parker Cothran's going to have to step his game off and be a one tackle. Antoine White, and then we've got some guys we're thinking about moving out from outside to inside, from defensive end to defensive tackle. But those guys, Robert Windsor's a guy who's really done well as a scout team guy, and when he's had an opportunity to show out, he's done very, very well. But that's going to be a work in progress, and that's a question that needs to be answered in March and April.
Bob, is there any chance that you would look at what you have and maybe a major scheme change, maybe 3-4 or something?
Not major, but it's funny that you asked that question, because we talked about Brent, Sean, Terry, and I talked about it. I called it the 50,000-mile checkup. It's like what you do with your car. I mean, we're to that point now, where we've run relatively the same scheme for 5 years. We certainly tweak it. And I say this every year. Each unit and each team has its own identity, and the identity of this team was different than the 2014 team. The 2016 team will be different than this one. So we're not afraid to alter things and do what it takes to put the best players on the field, for who we're competing against for conference championships. One more.
One more.
All right.
A lot of your players.
You're hogging them.
I know.
What else is new?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Harsh, man. A lot of your players spoke really highly of Garrett Taylor yesterday, and said that he was the guy who really came on. So what has impressed you about him, either this season or during the bowl practice?
We've known Garrett for a long time. He's a guy we actually recruited at Vanderbilt. I mean, he's from Richmond, Virginia, and he's a tall, long, athletic guy coming off an injury in high school, and that may actually have prevented him from getting in the rotation this year. I think corner is going to be a very competitive position come the spring. Obviously Grant and John Reed have done well. John Reed probably exceeded anybody's expectation. 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery, and Grant's played very, very well over the course of 2 years. But behind those guys, you got Christian Campbell, Amani Aruye, and then to me, it's Garrett, and it's anybody who's an incoming freshman. So we're looking forward to watching those guys play. And I think Garrett has shown enough that he, with a good spring and a good camp, is going to find himself right in the middle, right in the thick of things.